Hello, everybody, to the On the Gas podcast, episode 6. This time we spoke about many things, including Jorge Martin's disaster class in MotoGP, Marc Marquez's victory once again, Yamaha using a V4 engine in the future, track to rider communication systems being tested out.
Oh, you're teasing us.
I am teasing you. And Moto2, Sergio Garcia's crying, Piqueras in Moto3 and what went on there, and of course, what on earth is going on in World Superbikes?
At Magnacore. Yep. I get mugged off in the predictions.
As always.
With shock results. So I guess you'll just have to listen to the end. I make
hilarious jokes that go over everyone's heads, and it's clearly not my fault.
Oh, and Pedro Acosta's the weatherman.
Yes, he is.
Facts.
As always.
True facts.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Recording now. Right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of the On the Gas podcast. I am joined once again by Cameron and Lauren.
Yo.
Hello.
You're nailing the intro now.
I know.
On the Gas.
I've done 1 week of it. I mean, come on. Like, next week, I'll probably go back to chaos again.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But, it's fine. So, how are you both before we dig into the pretty crazy weekend?
I'm good. I feel like I'm going to crack like a glass dish, though, because literally a week or two ago, I was in the heat in London. It was like nearly 30 degrees. And legit today, my weather app said feels like 6 degrees.
Yeah, it was cold today.
It was so cold. And you know me, I like to talk about the weather and the forecasts. I was not expecting this. It's caught me by surprise, I must admit. So, yeah, apologies if I'm elsewhere. I'm too busy like reeling over this weather, honestly.
Oh, poor Cameron.
I know.
Yeah, that's sad.
How about you, Lauren?
Yeah, I'm good. It feels weird recording. It's Tuesday now. Usually we record on a Monday evening. So I feel like it just feels a bit strange. It's weird to come home from work and sort of be sitting and waiting to do this. But here we are. I'm excited to talk about everything that happened this weekend, though, because once again, we sound like idiots. I particularly sound like an idiot considering the spiel that I went on last week compared to what's happened this week. So
yeah. It's always the way,
I might just give this podcasting up, to be honest, because
no.
They make a mockery of me every week. It's just, I'm not friends with Jorge Martin at the minute. That's just all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Well, before we do go into, obviously, the MotoGP weekend, there's been a bit of chaos after the weekend with Bo Benschneider having quite a public exit from his Moto2 team. It's quite an interesting one. There are a few little points. The team has published a statement today. Bo published 2 statements Sunday, including one he deleted from his Instagram story. But basically, he's out of the team, will be replaced by Daniel Munoz, not David, Daniel Munoz for the rest of the season. Bo actually got offered a seat to replace Daniel Munoz in the Junior GP, basically just swap places, put Bo on the bike over in the Junior GP series, the European Moto2 series. And Bo was like, no. And it's a bit weird. So the team obviously got bought out earlier this year by, is it Praikanos from the SAG Stop and Go team, which is why they got their new livery now. The new owner, he's interesting. I don't know if you've seen his Instagram account, but it's something to behold, is all I'm going to say. He seems to want to change things up in the team. And from what I've heard, obviously I've heard loads of different things. He wanted to maybe have two riders that were maybe Spanish to help sponsors and things like that. But interestingly enough, they had to do a vote within the team and say which riders they wanted to keep. They had to get rid of one rider because IRTA allows every team to sack one rider throughout the season. They can sack both if you want to, but IRTA at that point obviously is going to be like, what are you doing? So you are allowed to sack one rider. You have to obviously give good reasons and stuff like that, but you can sack a rider. The team, from what I was told, voted Masia to go because he's not performing as well as Bo. Dorna stepped in and said, no, you can't sack him. He's a Moto3 world champion. You have to keep him. So then Bo got the sack. Bo knew he was leaving the team at the end of the year anyway, but now has had the sack already, with the team putting a statement out today saying, well, after 6 seasons in Moto2 and he's not performing very well, he should be out of the team. And they basically sacked him early, and Bo himself has kind of put statements out and he's not too happy either. So I just wanted to hear what you guys really thought of that whole situation.
Take it away, Lauren.
Well, I don't really know where to start with it, to be honest. I mean, I'd heard that the team had a vote, and I had heard that the team had voted that Masia should go. Obviously, I'm not sure what truth that is behind that, but I mean, it makes sense. The whole thing with Jaime Masia is he is last year's Moto3 champion, which I think is his saving grace. It's not just the fact that he is a Moto3 world champion. I think it's a bit tough. Like, he is champion. Exactly. So unfortunately for Bo, it's just not been handled very well. It is sort of giving me vibes of American racing team over the years, of sort of just wanting to get other riders in and sort of just pulling the carpet out from underneath your feet, sort of thing. It is unfortunate. I do think that maybe he hasn't performed as well as he probably would want to this season, which I think is fair to say, but I don't think it's fair for any rider to be sacked like that mid-season, unless it's a mutual agreement from team and rider that they are to split ways, which we have seen before. And that's totally fair. If, it's a mutual agreement, I don't see an issue with it. But for someone who thought, oh, I'm safe until the end of the season, and then I can sort of see what's going on and decide what I'm going to do. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like things like this because it's hard to sort of comment on it. Obviously, we don't know all the facts, but from what I'm being told and what I've seen and what I've heard, yeah, Bo seems to be really hard done by in this situation. So it's not what you want to see, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, like, when you mentioned there about it having it's reminiscent of sort of American racing team attitudes and stuff, there does seem to be this thing with certain teams where rather than looking inwards, they blame the rider and and we'll swap them out and treat them, quite sort of disposably and like they're expendable. And I mean, when you look at the results for the team themselves, it's not like they've got one rider that's consistently performing really well and then one that isn't. It's it's definitely a sort of one of those things where they're really trying to find the easy fix with perhaps bringing in better talent, when actually perhaps there's more to it than that. And it seems like that's the case with what's going on here. So yeah, I do feel like Bo's hard done by, and it does, the way that he's acting on social media would sort of suggest that as well. This wasn't a mutual decision, like you said. So it is a shame to see, and I think there's always politics like this going on behind the scenes. Even if nothing changes in the team, there's probably still somebody somewhere missing out on something. It's when it's public like this and there's some, like, mid-season someone gets sacked, we're like, oh, what controversy, like, how can teams act this way when there's probably hundreds of decisions akin to this happening all the time that aren't as public. So yeah, like, I feel bad for Bo, but I'm sure, are there any announcements of, like, where he's going? Did you say he was maybe going to be doing that swap, but he has?
He's not going to do that. No.
No.
He said he's just going to take the rest of the year off because he spoke to Ziggo Sport, which are the Dutch kind of coverage after the race. Literally straight after the race, hopped off the bike, spoke to them, and basically was like, I'm just going to stay at home, relax, recuperate, and maybe come back next year, probably in World Supersport. I don't see him getting another Moto2 seat after so many seasons in the class, which makes sense. He did sign with the AB a few years ago, so maybe there's still some links there for him to join the squad. But yeah, I think it's just a sad situation. I think it maybe raises the point about a riders' union. I think that's been spoken about quite a lot. I think Aleix Espargaro would be a great rider to kind of lead that union because he's not really afraid to speak out against people, even people close to him. And I think he'd do quite well at just protecting riders, because it does seem like a lot of the time, even if you've got a contract, because I listened to Sean Dillon Kelly talk about the situation that happened with him on the Pipe Dreams podcast, and he went into quite a bit of detail about it and about the fact that, you know, they spoke to Erta and Erta just got rid of Sean basically, and Sean was just left with nothing. And I think that if riders are paying to ride or putting their lives on the line and getting treated like this, it's not fair. I understand that teams have to make money and it's a business, and if someone's not doing the business, then you should be out. But there either should be a contract. If you have a contract, you should fulfill it for the whole year, or there should be a halfway through the season, like a transfer window over the summer break, where if you and the team aren't happy, you can break the contract and leave, or you can switch teams or make moves around like that. Maybe Moto2 and Moto3 would be more beneficial.
Yeah, I do wonder what clauses are in these sorts of contracts, though, because there has to be clauses in all of them, to be honest. But yeah, making it a bit more, you know, if you're not like realistic standards, basically, of like, if you're not doing this by maybe halfway through the season, then maybe we can open talks and discussions about parting ways and stuff like that, which sort of fits hand in hand with like that transfer window, or just, I don't know. It's difficult. It's hard when you sign a contract for a year or 2 years that, you know, halfway through it, they sort of just go, oh, well, actually, yeah, we don't want to fulfill that anymore. Riders do need someone or something to sort of back them up, because if teams are allowed to do that, if you're saying that IRDA is allowing teams that they can sack a rider for no reason, like, the riders need to be protected better from that. Like, yeah, like, imagine stuff like that happening in real life. Like, you don't just get sacked from your job for nothing. So
no, you have to go
without
through,
recourse.
you know,
especially in the UK
unfair
anyway.
dismissal sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, like, it seems wild to me, and I'm sure it does to you guys too, that they can just turn around and do that. So I'd actually love to read a proper contract, and I'd love to see what these guys are actually signing, because it just doesn't make sense how a team can just go back on their word like that. And I know we joke, you know, a contract's worth nothing these days, but when you see someone now who's going to be sitting at home for the next eight races when he should be flying around the globe, yeah, it's just not nice. I don't like hearing that. And it doesn't matter who it is or where they are in the championship. It's not fair.
It's not. And I think Sean Dillon Kelly even said that when they broke his contract, he did have performance clauses in the contract, and he said there were, but he was beating all of them and surpassing all those expectations anyway. And, you know, but teams can just kind of walk out of contracts, it seems. It seems more leverage towards the teams than the riders, when it's the riders the ones sticking their necks on the line. And this is why Riders Union would be great, but getting that off the line would be quite difficult. But then a rider like Aleix, who's retiring at the end of the year, wouldn't need to be worried about tiptoeing over anyone's toes, because he's not a full-time rider anymore.
No, it needs the support as well. Like, it needs people who know what they're doing in terms of contracts as well, and it needs the support from all the riders. That's why the safety commission thing, we always talk about how it would be good for Aleix and stuff like that. Maybe the likes of Pecco, who speaks up quite a lot. Not all the riders do that, and not all the riders speak up. So unfortunately, unless they come as a united front, it's never going to work.
Yeah, well, that's it. Because if you're a team looking for riders, for example, or vice versa, you're a rider looking for a team, and a team has a choice between a rider who's in a union and one that isn't, you're going to go with the one that they can sack without any recourse. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so there needs to be. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? It's there's a whole bunch of politics that come along with this that would need to be enforced from the top down. It would need to be an initiative by the big dogs, basically.
By Dorna, really.
Essentially. It can't just be this external body that's sort of trying to encourage riders to sign up and get high-powered representatives like a Leish, people that would be listened to in the paddock, it would need to come from the top down. Otherwise, yeah, like I say, teams would just not. They would rather take the rider that's going to be easier to deal with from a contract's point of view.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Right, moving on from that, because we've spoken quite a lot about that one. So before we actually go into World Superbikes, and this name will be one that will pop up whilst we talk about Superbike quickly, Adrian Huertas confirmed now, we mentioned it on the pod last time out, will ride for Italtrans next year, Moto2. Quite a shock move, I think. Didn't really see that coming at all. Like I said, I heard some rumours in the paddock and stuff about it, but genuinely kind of dismissed it as being false. And yeah, it's true. I think it's quite a good move. His Pirelli tyres consistent over the 2 championships as well. Yeah, I think he could do quite well. We've seen a few riders make the jump over the years. Franco Morbidelli did it quite successfully. Sam Lowes, of course. Manuel Gonzalez done it recently, has done really well. So I think nowadays, especially with the Pirellis, because I remember Manu saying that the Dunlops were so difficult to kind of adapt to, but now they're on Pirelli, I think that will be not an easy transition because it's the stiffest motorcycle you will ever ride with absolutely zero feedback, going from a bike that has so much flex and suspension and gives you feedback all the time. That will be a difficult adjustment process, but the tyres will help.
One last thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's in a great team as well. So quite excited for that one personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he certainly proved this weekend as well that he's got
he's
got some skills. He's got great feel and intuition, shall we say.
That save was mental.
That was the coolest thing I think I've ever seen, by the way.
It's so viral. Last time I saw it, had 5 million views on Instagram.
Really? Jeez.
Even my dad said to me, and I was like,
hundreds.
Yeah, same actually.
Hundreds of thousands of likes on TikTok the last time it popped up on my For You page. And it popped up on my For You page too, like just random.
It was like something from an action movie, like bursting through the barrier. Wow. That was great. It was a great scene.
Mahias and Dabi's nearly scrapping got 5 million views, so this has got to have a lot. Just trying to find it. 20 million views on Instagram.
Woo!
What?
Wow, that's insane.
See it.
Yeah, I'm just having a look on what TikTok now. But that kind of stuff helps grow the sport quite significantly.
Yeah, totally. What an exciting moment that now 20 million people have seen. Well, I'm sure.
Unbelievable save.
Yeah, it's got 5.7 million views on TikTok.
That's
and over 200,000 likes.
800,000 likes on Instagram. Someone said I counted 11 times I would have crashed. And that's how you know you've got the right guy for the job. Yeah, unbelievable crashing. I'm crashing, save.
Not even crashing, saving.
Yeah, outstanding. And yeah, I mean, it was a pretty crazy weekend at Magny-Cours. Starting off with Toprak's horrendous crash on the Friday. Was it Friday? Yeah, it was FP2, wasn't it?
Yeah, that could have been really different. Yeah,
I think there was a rider, I can't remember who it was, made a statement on social media and was like, Marco Melandri basically said, I have been asking for years for that bit to be fixed, or an airbag cushion to be put on there, or something to be put there. And Greg Haynes, who does the commentary with James Toseland on Eurosport, he said that in the 10 years of commentary he's been doing at that circuit, he has never seen a crash there. You just don't crash there that often. And so suddenly Toprak's crashed there, and let's be real, very nearly didn't come home, and very, very lucky to be walking. And it's a shame that now, and only now after the crash, are people going, we were telling you about that and you've not done anything about that.
Yeah, I think as a whole, seeing how many people got injured, even when you just look at the superbike class in itself, obviously Toprak having that crazy crash, Jonathan Rea had to sit out of the rest of the weekend. He has injured his hand. Alvaro Bautista has broken his ribs. So, even just looking at the top 3 guys in the championship who, the names that come to everyone's minds when you talk about World Superbikes, they're all out injured, and goodness knows if any of them are going to be fit for Cremona in a couple of weeks' time. I've decided we shouldn't race there, to be honest, just looking at those 3 injuries in themselves after the weekend. I know it might be a bit rash to think that, but that crash of top racks in itself was enough for me to go, whoa,
that's too much.
Needs a fix.
That's too much. That needs a real good fix, or it needs to be taken off the calendar, because you can't afford to have any sort of crashes like that again in the future, because the next one won't be so lucky. And you just can't take those sorts of risks when you're already putting your life at risk by getting on a motorcycle. You need to be safe at the circuit that you're at, as safe as you can be. And I just don't think it was this weekend at all.
No, it's a pretty tricky track. I mean, it rained on Saturday, and the race 1 was just a crash fest. And when you take into consideration the crashes that Top Rack had in the dry, and then some other crashes you saw over the weekend, it's not a safe track to be riding on. None of them are safe, shall we say, but it's when you're having crashes like that, and there are obstacles in the way that can cause serious injury, and people aren't doing things to prevent that, that's when there needs to be questions asked about the safety of the circuit. And it seems to be a French thing, because Le Mans comes around in MotoGP and we have 100 plus crashes there, and it might just be that it's a change in weather conditions, and it might just be that the riders aren't, and the tires aren't ready for those conditions. But even if they're not, the track safety needs to be up to a standard where we're not sat there wondering and talking about the fact that Top Rack is a very lucky man after a crash that could have been protected by an air fence at least.
Yeah, I just think as well, when we look back on MotoGP, the incident that I think of is obviously Austria. In 2021.
Yeah.
And that photo, and everyone knows it, and everyone, we all remember that incident. And again, thankfully no one was hurt, but the chicane was put in then, or the wee stupid 2A 2B thing.
2A 2B,
which is so stupid. Hate that. It didn't need to be as dramatic as what it is, but at least something was done straight away. I'd like to see something be at least addressed after this weekend in World Superbikes, because we literally just talked about a riders commission there. This is what we need, some sort of riders commission for, whether it be a safety commission or to do with contracts, etc., etc. You need a union, because if I was a rider, I wouldn't want to race there again after what happened. I'd be putting my hands up and going, do you know what, maybe we should rethink this, or maybe there needs to be something put in place. I don't know how they would fix that. It's not my area of expertise, but surely they have to be having conversations.
Even just air fences would be enough, because Top Rack would have just hit the air fence and bounced off of it, or it would have just taken all the impact and he'd just hit it. Like when Danny Pedrosa absolutely walloped one years ago, hit the air fence, and he kind of got up and was fine. But without that, it could have been a different story. So I think they need to really kind of take on board what riders are saying. If Marco Melandri's coming out and saying, since 2011, I've been asking for an air fence or something to be done about that bit, and no one's done anything, we don't need a rider to come out if a serious incident happened and go, I told you so. It needs to be a thing of going, wow, I'm so glad I spoke up about that thing, because another rider's had an accident there, and they put preventative measures in at that circuit and at that corner, so that if a rider has another crash, it wouldn't be as bad. And that rider has crashed, and it's been nowhere near as bad. I'm so glad they listened to what I said.
Yeah.
These are the people going on the track and riding it after all.
Well, exactly. Like you say, prevention is better than cure. So
yeah,
I think some things definitely need addressed at that track after this weekend.
and
whether they will or not.
I don't want to get rid of it, because I do love Magny-Cours and great battles.
It's always great racing,
yeah, and lots of great moments, like Jonathan Rea won the championship there a few times, and Carrasco won a championship there as well. Top Rack nearly got his first triple, got a double, and then obviously lost the third one because of Kawasaki putting their little complaint in. But we've seen some amazing things over the years there, and I wouldn't want to get rid of it, but they need to do things to enhance the safety and, like we say, prevent and not cure.
Well said.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But moving over into MotoGP, the main guts of the podcast, what everyone's really trying to look for. So we waited, 143 days for Marc Marquez to win. Yeah, 1,043 days. And then we waited 168 hours for him to win his second. Insane.
Well, I gotta say, I don't know. Wait, Mark had no right to win the race this weekend.
From ninth.
He did. Yeah, exactly. Not great qualifying. But, sketchy conditions are just Mark's thing. Proved it once again. And to be fair, when it was drying up, Pecco still couldn't catch him.
Yeah, he was putting lap record pace.
Yeah, exactly. Lap record pace. After, a sketchy start to the race. What was it, lap 20 or something? He got that on as well. So, impressive.
I mean, yeah. Speechless, to be honest. I think you've hit all the relative points there, though. He had no right to win that race whatsoever, even with the sketchy conditions. I've seen a couple of after race interviews where he sort of joked and said, I've seen Jack Miller go for it, and he thought, oh, well, it'll be hard to get past Jack if I don't go now, sort of thing. So I thought that was a really good insight of sort of I know you maybe make jokes and stuff like that about certain riders, but it's funny to see that Marc Marquez is even oh, I've got to go now because Jack Miller's ahead of me, and if I don't go now, I'm not going to get past him, sort of thing. And then he initially liked having Pecco in front of him, and then he was like, oh no, I think I have to go for it now, sort of thing. I think I have the pace, and he was scared to be out front. He was like, I didn't know where the limits were then, whereas when I was behind Pecco, it was okay. I could sort of see where I was at, and I found it a really great insight, to be honest. And of course, he made it a lovely, touching tribute to Fausto Corsini as well. He said something along the lines of, someone up there today decided that we needed to have a little sprinkling of rain to sort of help me out, and that's what's happened, and that's why we're on the top step, sort of thing. And obviously tributes him when he was on the podium and stuff like that as well, which I just think was really nice. We know Marc Marquez is like that, but I think it's a nice reminder for a lot of people. I know he was getting boos, etc. But yeah, I think that's a nice reminder that he's human. And I was really happy to see that Corsini special livery as well, especially on the top step this weekend. It is so nice to look at. But yeah, it was great. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was nice to see Pecco on the podium shake his finger, didn't he, and say stop booing to the fans and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think personally they should boo more, because Marquez is only fueled by booing, to be honest. So the more they boo, the more
I wondered where you're going.
I've been in Misano the last 3 years. This is the first time in 3 years I haven't been there, and I can tell you, in 2021 he got booed. In 2022, he got booed. In 2023, he definitely got booed as well. And I'm not surprised that this year was no different. It just fuels him even more. So, I can imagine that when he was standing on the podium, it was
he was like, give me that power.
Yeah, he's like, more.
Boost.
Please. Do you remember when he crashed at Misano and he was on the scooter and all fans above him were booing and he was blowing them kisses?
Yeah.
But
Can't confirm.
it was just it was nice to see that. I think for him as well that he has still got it. He even said, he was like, I didn't see Pecco pit, so I'm not pitting. He was going to go and kind of follow the leader kind of thing at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Which totally.
He said in the press conference, he was like, because he sat with Anea and Pecco, and he was like, well, the Italians didn't go in, so I'm not going in. These guys know this place better than me. I'm not going in. I'm not going in if they're not going in.
Yeah,
I'm staying out here with these lot because they know the way around here better than me, kind of thing, which is quite funny. But yeah, it was nice to see. It was nice to see his dancing and stuff, and he's now 53 points back.
It was not nice to see.
I don't know if it's nice to see his dancing. We'll
It's
draw the line
not,
there.
'cause it's terrible. It's nice to see him happy after like 2-3 years of awfulness.
What it means.
Do you know what I'm gonna say? Is before the race started, they had the cameras on him, and he was sat out, obviously, on the bike, and he had his hand like stretched out past the umbrella, and he smiled. And Frankie Carcetti walked over to him with a very straight face, and Mark sort of then went back to being very subdued. And I was like, I think he knew exactly what was going on. I wish I need to go back and find it actually, and I'll clip it or something and post it on our stories so you can see what I'm talking about. But like, he had this look on his face, and only after the race did I sort of go, he knew exactly what was going to happen today. I think he knew it was going to be mixed conditions. I think he thought it was probably going to rain more than it did, but yeah, I think he had something up his sleeve that he knew he was going to get up a few positions anyway, because I think he thought that people were going to make mistakes in the mixed conditions, which they did.
They did. Yeah.
Well, do you know who didn't know about the rain? Davide Tardozzi.
Yeah. It's not going to rain.
No, he said it was going to rain.
Oh, no, sorry.
He said it's going to rain.
Yeah. Oh. He thought full-blown rain, whereas Enea Bastianini, I think it was, who said it didn't smell like rain. So it wasn't going to rain.
And then Pecco was like, he always lies, he always gets wrong. And then Mark was like, okay, I won't listen to
Good to know,
I'm sure I heard some kind of mental, probably one of these statistics that just is not, or facts that is utterly, utterly untrue. But I'm sure I heard some, well, yeah, I don't know. That like the internet.
Opinions page or something, I don't know.
I'm sure I heard something like a human can smell if there's like rain in the air, like similar or even more accurately than a shark can smell blood in the water or something like that.
I heard that.
I don't know about that, but I can smell. Do you know?
Yeah.
Do you not walk outside and you go, it's gonna rain today.
No, well, no, but like you don't. It's maybe more of an intuitive thing. You don't like smell it and be like, smells like rain, but like it's probably
do.
Well, if it, sure, petrichor it's called. If it's like raining while it's been hot or whatever,
it's true. By the way,
you can smell that. Is it true? Okay, a little fact check.
I walked outside today. I could smell the rain.
Humans are 200,000 times more sensitive to smelling geosmin than sharks are at smelling blood, and geosmin is in rain, basically.
Well, so there you go. So Enea was tapping into his primal geosmin, if that's instincts, whereas Tardozzi.
You looked at the radar,
he's just a data guy, clearly.
Yeah, he is. I mean, what does the data say? I'm quite surprised, to be honest, because by that, Pedro Costa should have pitted then, surely, because he couldn't smell rain in the air.
But KTM's weather thing, someone from KTM said that it predicted it perfectly.
But that was also a joke because Pedro Costa's a shark, you know.
Oh.
It's fine.
Was it?
Oh,
I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because someone was like, oh, yeah, no, KTM's like, they have like this weather thing, and apparently it worked.
Fine.
My face was like, what?
Whoosh.
Gone. I mean,
right, so
neither
I
of us got
rain,
that.
But I can't tell a joke. So.
I think it was more of a bad joke rather than. I don't think this is on us, Lauren, but there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
KTM apparently their weather detector is like perfect, according to I think it was Acosta himself.
I don't know if this is a joke now.
See if Declan knows it's a joke, then that's how you know it's not funny.
Yeah, no, genuinely, I think it was Pedro who said that they're.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. No, and that's what I've just said back to you. And you said, "Are you making a joke?"
Classic
stuff. I actually
plagiarism.
Let Lauren say it, and then 5 minutes later, let's say the same thing and play it off as my own.
Did you know? By the way,
that?
KTM's weather predictor is like perfect. Apparently,
is it really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No idea. I know.
Apple? You mean Apple weather isn't the be all and end all? No.
Apparently not.
You didn't even look. So
yeah, I didn't look. Can you believe it? Why did I not check the forecast this time? Horrendous.
Yeah.
Bad
the
form.
Freaking weatherman over there. Terrible. But
shocking.
One person who didn't get it right this weekend was Jorge Martin, who was quite sad actually seeing him go down pit lane and peer at everyone over on the track. Like, are you not coming with me?
It was the funniest meme ever. Like, as soon as he did it, I was like, I thought initially that the rain was coming down harder than what it was, because the shots when he did pull in were like, they looked quite heavy, and I was like, he's maybe played this to perfection.
He could have played a blinder.
Upon reflection, though, obviously that's not the case, because I remember messaging the group chat being like, whoa, just let him cook for a wee second here. And then a lap later I was like, no, he's absolutely made the wrong decision here. But I like him for trying it and for going against the grain. But when the guy that you're in the championship fight with doesn't pull in, the guy whose backyard you're literally in and knows this place well doesn't pull in, I think you stay out for another lap and you see what goes on.
Well,
because he might not have won, but he still probably would have got on the podium looking at what did play out. And I know things would have been a lot different with Martin in the mix, but silly points thrown away. And especially after I just said last weekend in Aragon how great he was at sitting in second place and not doing anything stupid and taking home the points. It's flipped again this weekend, and Pecco did the smart thing, seen that Marc was too far ahead of him, said I'll take the second place. Whether it was his choice or not, I know he was feeling obviously very injured too after, being stuck under a bike last weekend, but I just can't believe that Pecco went and did that, and Martin was like, I went wide on one corner, so I'm going to pull in and get wets on. The track wasn't even wet, so
yeah, he got spooked by that.
Really spooked, yeah.
Matt Oxley made a good point earlier today on X. So he keeps saying, so I'm going to read his tweet out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
X still tweets. He said, people keep saying Martin effed up. And yes, he probably should have copied Bagnaia. But like I keep saying, it's easy to comment with a 2020 hindsight. What would have happened if that shower continued for another 30 seconds and sprinkled turn 11? The leaders would have gone down in a heap at 150 miles an hour, and Martin may have won the race, giving himself a 50-point championship lead. And at the end of the year, people would be saying that it was Misano Gamble that won him the title. And then he followed on and said that Rolf Waldman was such a sweetie, because apparently he made him cry in an interview, and a philosopher that these words should keep ringing in everyone's ears. So Rolf said, when the race started on wet tyres, I was an idiot. Then when it started raining and I could win, I was a hero. The difference between an idiot and a hero is very small. And it kind of echoes the point I've been making about the fact that sometimes you make these gambles that go against the grain and they come off. Marc Marquez years ago at Sachsenring stayed out on slicks when everybody else... Well, yeah, I was going to get to that one in a minute.
I'm sorry.
But Marc Marquez Marc Marquez on Sachsenring years ago stayed out on slicks, and everybody else pitted, barring a few. Pol Espargaro stayed out on slicks as well. Pol made it 4 corners, crashed. Marquez stayed out on slicks and won the race by like 30 seconds because it dried up again. He went against the grain and it worked. Brad Binder stayed out on slicks again, won the race.
Wow.
It's almost as if that was the point I was going to make anyway. It's almost as if that was the point I was like halfway through making.
No chance.
No, of course not. I didn't say it in the group chat the other day
about
at all.
That.
But yeah. So, and then obviously Brad Binder as well. Martin could have looked like an absolute genius, but unfortunately, he doesn't.
I'll pull up the text receipts. I said it at the time. Give him a lap or two. Let's see what the rain does. And then obviously, as soon as we realised that he was, 10 seconds slower on the wet tyres. And he wasn't the only one to pit either, which is the annoying thing of like, I know the rest of the people who did pit, Pedro Acosta crashed. The Aprilia is nowhere to be seen anyway. Alex Rins was literally at the back of the field too. It's annoying that no one's really saying the same thing about them. They gambled too. And if it had paid off for any one of them as well, like we could have been talking about the likes of Taka Nakagami on the podium and we'd all be going wild for it. But, they had to take those chances too. They maybe seen Jorge Martin go in and go, oh, here, I'm going to go now. And the other thing is that Jorge Martin would have talked to his team about this. He didn't just go in. Yes, he got spooked, but he didn't just go in for the shits and giggles of it. Like, they would have talked about this. This would have been one of the plans. Like, you've probably got plan A, plan B, plan C, plan whatever. But yeah, I find that quite interesting to add on to the point of, like, he either could have been a hero or it didn't go his way. Like, this would have been planned. And I think probably as soon as he went wide, that was probably something that him and the team have spoken about, of like, right, as soon as you get to the point where you feel like you can't control it on the slick tires, come on in and we'll switch bikes and away you go. And that's probably how it actually played out. It wasn't just a second decision of like, oh God, it's too wet now, what am I going to do?
It'll be tactics chats.
Yeah, 100%. Because again, if it had played off, we'd be talking about how he's 50 points ahead in the championship.
Yeah, because, well, the receipts are that you said he either cooked it or has been a genius, it looks wet, and then 5 minutes later he said, okay, never mind, he's absolutely cooked it or destroyed it. I won't say the actual thing you said, but yeah. But
I wonder what I actually did say.
There's a point I want to make. You said absolutely effed it. There's a point I want to make because it's controversial, but it's also would benefit Martin. Is the fact that, I mean, they've been testing them for years now, but at the Misano test the other day, they tested the radio communication between riders and the pit wall. I think we spoke to somebody, Cameron at Silverstone, about it, who basically said that they are coming. They've just been waiting on some manufacturers of helmets just to make sure everything's still safe whilst they've got these things in the helmet,
of course,
and things, because, you know, some need R&D. Japanese brands, I think, were just slowing the things up a little bit, which is fine. If you want to do R&D to make sure it's safe, go for it.
That's the most important thing.
There's a pro and a con in this situation. With the Martin situation, we'll say the pro would be for the teams. The pro would be, we can talk to Martin and say, right, the rain's actually coming in now, but it should go. You know, we've hacked into KTM's weather app, and we know that it's not going to stay out very long.
We've asked Pedro Acosta,
we've asked Pedro. It's not going to stay out very long, this rain, so stay out on the normal tyres. And Martin would know, okay, I'm going to stay out then. Although it feels a bit wet, I'll stay out, and therefore I can stay in the race. But these races should be about the rider and their own thoughts. You're on track and you go. But then to counter that point, it's also a team sport. When they win or they lose, they win or they lose as a team. The detriment and the massive detriment of these rider comms to pit wall is that, yes, they benefit the team, but they go against the spectacle, because we want to see the spectacle as fans of a rider making an error in the rain like Martin did, that then hots up the championship and keeps everything good. Because what's the point in watching a season where everybody makes the right decision 100% of the time the whole way through because the team have told them what to do? That takes out the whole rider error thing. That takes out the ability from the riders, and once again hands it towards an external thing. We had Casey Stoner a few weeks ago talking about the fact that the MotoGP riders' bikes are quite easy to ride, and they have the ABS and things like that, and you don't have the skill of managing the throttle throughout the corner and the spin and stuff like that. You have to then just use ABS and the electronic aids to benefit you to ride a bike. So then if you've also got a guy or a girl in your ear telling you, okay, do this, right, okay, your tire's actually going down a bit now, your fuel's going down a bit, so maybe back off a few tenths this lap or the next 5 laps. Marquez is still way behind you and lapping these laps, so therefore you can still maintain that gap. It takes all of that away. It takes out Valentino Rossi crashing at Sepang 2018 because Marquez closed in on him and he crashed at turn 1 because he was like, oh no, Marquez is coming, I've got to go faster. It takes all that out because suddenly you've got people in your ear telling you how to ride a motorcycle and how to win a race. That's my point.
I get that. It is like, it's yet another layer of the quality of the team being a deciding factor in where you finish in the race. Because, I mean, we have seen it pretty consistently where Lenovo Ducati just seem to have like a little bit more in terms of the the 1% better sort of everywhere within the team that kind of makes the difference and can put Pecco on top. Obviously, Pecco, outstanding rider. He's two-time world champion, but MotoGP champion. The it's like you say, it's just one more thing where the information and the data that the team have can influence how this race ends up. And will that take away from the spectacle? It becomes more and more like F1, right? Where it's like the tactics, and I don't watch much F1, much, see also at all. I don't watch any, but where it's also like determined by team tactics and what the data guys are saying, and like just this whole the rider becomes more of a cog in the wheel rather than the be all and end all of where that bike's going to finish. And like you say, if we would have had much less to talk about this weekend if Martin had been told to stay out by someone in his ear a few laps before, being like, don't worry, this is going to pass over, just follow Pecco. There would have been less to talk about. It's a tricky one. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but the last thing we want is the racing to be more boring, right? Because there's people already complaining about that. So,
well,
I was included.
I think I'm undecided how I feel about it, obviously, because we haven't seen it rolled out yet, and I think it is very easy to sit and judge something before you've seen how it is intended to work. I think the downside, obviously, yes, I agree that at the weekend we wouldn't have got what we got if we have team communications. I think in F1 they're racing for upwards of 2 hours, sometimes even more. MotoGP race about 40 minutes. Is there really a need for that sort of thing? I personally don't really think so. I think from what we already see, I mean, riders have pit boards. That's what they're used to. You know, they see their gaps, etc. On that, they'll sometimes be told things, you know, like calm down. We've seen like breathe and stuff like that be put on pit boards. You know, just manage your race. We've seen them put, you know, your title rivals crashed. You know, they'll put that in your pit board. You can see, but they also get dashboard communications. Now, I'm not sure how advanced these dashboard communications are, and from what we see, obviously from the live like world feed, we get those communications put up onto the screen so we can see what's going on as well. I think at the weekend, can't remember who crashed out in Moto 2, but one of the riders was let known about it, and it's like, okay, well, that seems pretty advanced, and that sort of puts on exactly what you need to know. They'll say what mapping you need to be on if there's a change, and we can see all of that. And I really don't see why they would need much more than what we've already got. Like, seems to, you know, the yellow flags and stuff like that. I think maybe in terms of like someone's crashed or there's a big incident for safety, might be something good. They can actually communicate and say there's been a real bad crash. You really need to like come off of it, because I know a lot of times maybe yellow flags and people are going, oh yeah, it's nothing, and they really
back
should be
off
slowing
a bit,
down.
but they're still doing 150.
So maybe like safety and stuff like that could be something that it could be useful for. But yeah, I don't like the idea of managing races. I think the big difference between MotoGP and F1 is that the Constructors' Championship is much more important in F1 than the Drivers' Championship. Whereas, even as fan perspective, whereas in MotoGP, and maybe I'm just speaking from personal experience, the Riders' Championship for me in MotoGP is much more important than the Constructors. We have a lot less Constructors as well compared to F1. You know, there's I don't know, there's just, it's different, and I just don't see.
Yeah, I agree.
The point, really. Like, safety, yes, 100%. Little communications, 100%. But I don't want to see someone, you know, Frankie Carcetti, for example, sitting telling Mark exactly what he needs to be doing, start to finish. You get one little message or one radio per race, and that's it. And let that be that. Something along those lines. Like, it needs to be monitored to some extent, but I'll let it come out first before I make judgment on what it's going to be like, and before I know exactly what it is that they're planning on using it for too.
Yeah. I think, like, as a quick side note as well, though, some of the most like viral or hilarious clips that have come out of F1 have been just clips of like the team communications with a driver who's like pissed off or something. Yeah, right. So perhaps it will, as a slight benefit, will be we would get more some more entertaining content. Who knows?
Just put a microphone in their helmet, like that's all that needs
just
to
give them a
done.
little lav mic. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think
that would be good because again, content-wise, I think MotoGP could really go viral because you're exactly right. Like we've seen F1 drivers like singing in their helmets and stuff like that. I don't know what these MotoGP guys are doing, going that fast.
I think
swearing.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is if this thing is going to go ahead, my opinion is that if the session you're in doesn't count for anything, so you're in FP1, you're in FP2, use them as much as you want. If you're going around and you're like, Pecco, and you're riding around, you just put a new tyre in, they've got some new suspension settings on the bike, he's going around, it's like, oh, it doesn't feel like very good here, I go into this corner, it's like this, if I go around this corner, it's like this, and they get unlimited transmissions through it, and then his crew chief can sit there and go, right, okay, tell the data people, this is what's happening here, this is what's happening here, he feels like this here, what can we do? So as soon as Pecco rolls back into that box, they can just hop on the bike and already be on fixing that thing or making it suit Pecco instead of him sitting around and debriefing for 10 minutes to give them more track time. But then if you're in qualifying and a sprint or main race, you get 1 or 2 maximum the whole time to allow the rider to do the thinking and use their actual brain.
Yeah, and I get that to a point too of like maximizing track time, which would be handy, but like the whole point is that MotoGP riders have the luxury of being able to get off their bike and speaking straight away to the people in their team, whereas in F1 it's not so easy to get out of a car like that. Like when they come in, you maybe get new tires on and
they
the
just
radio
sit in the car,
works.
don't they?
Yeah, in that sense, because there's no point getting you out of the car to then have to go through the whole process of getting you back in the car. MotoGP, you can sit there with your helmet still on and debrief with your team while your bike's getting fixed anyway, or they're making adjustments or they're putting the new tires in, etc. You've got that time anyway. Why do you need to do it on radio? Yeah. The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, I actually don't. I don't like it.
Fair enough.
And
yeah,
I don't like the fact that when you're in F1 and you crash, the crashes aren't that crazy, shall we say? You know, you break your wrists, you break your arms and stuff like that, whatever. And obviously, someone has died in F1, Bianchi, a little while ago, but they're not as frequent. A lot of the crashes, they hit a wall and they go, Charles Leclerc goes, I am stupid, or something like that. When a motorcycle rider crashes, it's a lot more violent and they're shaking around and this and the other, and they might get hurt as well. And I don't know if that being live transmitted on the feed, because accidents can happen, would be a good idea either. And we know what Dorna's like, right? And I'm just speaking after looking at the social media feed and having seen other people also talk about what Dorna have put on the social media and the fact that they use crashes quite a lot to grow things. You go on TNT Sports and they show a preview before MotoGP to show how exciting it is. And there's about 5 crashes in there. You know, they use crashes to promote it, and I don't want them to then go down the route of going, oh, here's Bastianini tumbling through the gravel trap after breaking his collarbone, screaming in pain. I don't know. I'm being extreme there.
Yeah.
But, you know, you don't... Yeah. I don't want that to be used as a content machine.
I think even further than that, you know, you can imagine somewhere in the dark web, like, you know, radio comms would end up being published of, like, you know, a really horrific accident, which
possibly, or
we don't want either, you know.
They're happy to shove a camera in Sergio Garcia's face after he had a very bad race and lost the championship lead and is clearly very upset about the whole thing. And they're more than happy to... to broadcast him crying, and you can hear him sobbing and stuff like that on TV. So then it makes me worried about the content they would use with and put out with these radio comms as well.
Yeah. I go on the thing of like focus as well, which is a slight sidestep. Like, do you need someone talking in your ear when you're going that fast?
So
and I
think
know,
as well,
again, they make it work in F1, but it's a very different sport. And I think maybe that needs to be taken into consideration a bit more of like, yeah, you could make the comms work, but is it actually a good idea? Maybe not. I know I wouldn't want someone speaking in my ear. I don't even like a backseat driver when I'm in my car, so never mind when I'm going however fast on a MotoGP bike. But again, maybe that's just personal experience. I haven't heard what many riders have said about it or who tested it. I know there's a lot of journalists who aren't very happy about it. I'm not going to go ahead and name names because I don't have all the facts and stuff like that, but there's quite a lot of people that I follow on X who have made it very clear that they don't want to see this happening. So again, the media that I'm consuming is also quite against it as well, which these are people who I trust their their sources. This is where we get a lot of our news, and these are people who bring us stories. And if they're going, I'm not convinced that we need this, it will make me sit there and go, well, I'm not convinced we need this either. So they'll know a lot more than maybe what I would. They're on the ground and they were actually at the Misano test and seen it firsthand. So yeah, I'll wait and see what a few more people say about it and what riders say about it. I think is the big thing before again we go ahead and make assumptions as to whether or not it should be a thing. I think that's the main takeaway. Like if it does get rolled out, we'll have to see how it goes before we go ahead and say it's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah, makes sense. Shall we move on to the rest of the MotoGP weekend and races, I guess?
Yeah.
So, Oliveira was confirmed at Pramac.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
I feel like I saw that coming. I thought that was happening.
Oh, that was... Then, yeah. Like, I think we've spoken about it on the podcast before. I mean, they've also said it was what's his name? I can never remember his name. The guy who went from Aspar to Pramac and is a main person, Gino Borsoi, confirmed that at the Emilia-Romagna GP, they will confirm a second rider, very likely to be Jack Miller. There was a photo taken over the race weekend of Miller and his manager, Akiayo, walking out of the Pramac hospitality. So I think at this point, it's a done deal. We're just waiting on it. I think we've spoken about this many times about it being Jack Miller.
Yeah, I know what quote you're thinking of. There was a quote from Gino Borsoi saying the announcement will be the second Misano, and then there was another. I'm not sure TNT Sport maybe posted it.
Let's have a look. I'm not sure, but yeah, so that's kind of been confirmed. I think Oliveira and Miller make a good lineup at Pramac because they're kind of looking at the whole getting Yamaha back on track. Use them for 2 years as development riders. Then in 2027, when the new regs come out, you got a brand new bike there, and hopefully a few young riders willing to step on it and race.
Between them, have they not got experience on every bike in the paddock?
So I think, which manufacturers are there now?
Oh, Paolo Campagnotti, by the way, is the other quote that you're thinking of.
I see.
So, yeah, Karen, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say.
Oh, yeah,
Miller's
between them,
Honda,
yeah. Between them, they've got experience in all of them.
You say.
Why? Why me?
I don't know. I don't know. I think there's like a lag or something here that we might need to fix. But yeah.
No, so Oliveira has ridden the KTM Aprilia, then Yamaha. Miller's ridden KTM, Ducati, Honda. So that and then they'll meet at Yamaha to complete the 5.
Yeah, there you go. So
this is my next point. They left Ducati because they didn't like the fact that they'd signed Marc Marquez in the factory squad, and the whole point was to, they'd stopped promoting young talent. If you go ahead and sign Miguel Oliveira and Jack Miller, what young talent are you promoting? Now, I get it in the standpoint of you're going to be a new team on a new bike. you do want someone experienced, but I really, really hoped that they were going to go with one experienced rider and bring in someone new, whether that be a rookie or whether it just be someone with less experience, whether, maybe Augusto Fernandez. I'd be happier with that than I would be Jack Miller and Miguel Oliveira, because you've just gone against exactly why you left Caddy in the first place, and it just... don't say you're not happy with the team for not bringing up young talent to go ahead and not bring up young talent. It's a bit rich.
I believe they did try and sign Sergio Garcia, who had offers from Trackhouse and Pramac, but there was an external factor, according to Sergio, that meant he could not sign for the two of them.
Sergio Garcia is pretty heartbroken over this as well.
Yeah,
in terms of not
he
getting a
wanted
MotoGP
to step
seat.
up. He
And,
had two offers, and somebody said no.
Well, that's interesting. We've seen obviously how upset it's made him. His team, number one, have said he's not in a good mindset at the minute. And then, like you mentioned, we see him literally crying on the world feed
And
at the weekend too.
25th second weekend in a row.
Yeah, not a great finish. So yeah, I find it quite interesting to sort of hear that as well. Because how is he in the mindset that he's in at the minute, that he lost out on a MotoGP seat? Jake Dixon said that last year was the year that all the sort of phone calls were coming in, whereas this year it's fully on Moto2. I think he said something along the lines of last year was as close as I got, or
he nearly signed for Yamaha, didn't he?
Yeah. And then you think of the likes of Tony Arbolino, even Aaron Canet, Alonso Lopez, Manu Gonzalez, all riders that, have maybe been linked to Yamaha in the past. And at the minute we think it's Jack Miller. So sorry, I'm not happy about it. And I know people will come for me, but I don't not that I don't care. I didn't mind which experienced rider it was, whether it be Miguel or Jack, and it was going to be disappointing to whoever missed out. I think you should bring young talent up.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Jack and Miguel Oliveira will do a great job of developing the bike. I don't think they're too focused on results now after the last few years. Augusto Fernandez is still rumoured to be a KTM test rider next year, which makes no sense because surely you put Augusto on the Pramac and Jack Miller or Oliveira the test rider.
Well, that's my next point, I think, which helps what I'm trying to say, is that I'm not happy with KTM and Gas either, putting, or the Tech 3 team, whatever that's going to be next year, putting two experienced riders on what should be a sort of stepping stone for young riders.
Yeah, that's true as well. I think Pedro, his loyalty bought him a ticket into the factory seat because of how well he's done and he's come through the ranks.
Yeah.
Whereas Vinales and Anaya have no loyalty to KTM. Last time Vinales rode a KTM and Anaya was in Moto3. They're backed by either no energy drink or a rival energy drink, whereas Pedro has all the tools. He's got the Red Bull sponsorship. He's been with KTM his whole career, really, because he raced a KTM in the rookies, and then when he was in Junior World Championship, he was on a KTM as well. He knows nothing but KTM. Cut him off, he bleeds green. Not green, orange. Green. But, he's a KTM man.
Is he not well or something?
Nearly.
Yeah, he's like Shrek, but...
Yeah, but the point being, signing two experienced riders when you could have went with young talent, or you could have maybe not kicked your young talent out that you had a couple of years ago. Not just be
this is
salty
KTM
about that,
though, isn't it?
Yeah,
I get it. It's interesting. I think you've kind of got a... KTM were maybe at a risk of losing Pedro as well, and if KTM were like, we'll keep you in gas next year, whilst he's got factory teams knocking on the door, they kind of need to go, we need to keep him, and this is how we're going to keep him, because we can't pay a satellite rider $4 million a year when the factory riders aren't getting that much money. We need to pay, I don't know how much Pedro is, don't take that $4 million a year as a fact, but they can't pay a satellite rider more than a factory rider, whereas if they put Pedro in factory, they can pay him whatever the hell they want, and Brad Binder can't say anything.
Yeah, no, I think KTM made the smart move, obviously, by moving Pedro, but
I get it. It's having two top riders in a satellite squad doesn't make sense either. But
Not
that's
when it should be.
It's maybe why they're now running Red Bull KTM colours next year as well, and giving everyone the same status.
Yeah. I just think all of the teams have maybe it's just the sense of satellite and factory. The line is becoming a bit more blurred, which could be something too, because like Pramac is meant to be the stepping stone for Ducati, but now it's become so high up there that, you know, Jorge Martin's battling for the championship. A couple of years ago, the Pramac bike was not good enough.
There.
And and Pecco even made that comment of like, satellite bikes shouldn't be as close as what they are. And obviously at the time, a lot of people were in uproar, and I didn't really see an issue with the fact that satellite bikes had made such a jump and stuff like that. But maybe it's making a little bit more sense now of like, you know, there is meant to be sort of pathways into MotoGP, and it is starting to become a little bit hazy of like, the difference between satellite and factory teams now doesn't seem to be as big as what it was, even in terms of who you're signing.
Yeah.
You can go back to Valentino Rossi and think that of like when he moved to Petronas Yamaha, like what? Moving to a satellite team? Then you've got Marc Marquez moving from, you know, the biggest team. Well, what was the biggest team on the grid?
To Goscinny to be competitive.
Going to a satellite bike and now being third in the championship, and you're sort of going, wait a second. Yeah, I'm now ever so slightly confused of what warrants a factory rider and what warrants a satellite rider these days. Maybe I'm missing out on something. There's
especially when satellite riders are on factory contracts as well.
Yeah.
That does muddy it for sure. Yeah.
And
which Miguel Oliveira will be on next year.
Yeah, and probably Jack Miller as well. I mean, you got Furman on one, you got Didier on one, Marquez isn't on one at the moment, but will be next year in a factory team. Oliveira is on a factory Aprilia contract at the moment. Agura, don't think he's signed for Aprilia. I think he's just a Trackhouse rider. Same with Fernandez, I think he's an Aprilia rider. Yeah, Fernandez is an Aprilia rider. So, yeah, and then obviously you got Anea and Vinales, who are KTM riders, not Tech 3 riders. It's all just a bit strange.
It makes sense maybe when you look at like retirement, you know, if maybe say Vinales is going, I want this to be my last couple of years and I want to stay with you guys into my retirement, or I want to become a test rider, or I want to be able to help develop this bike.
But I need leverage, or I need a reason.
Makes sense. But then you've got the likes of Elise, who, you know, Aprilia
straight
rider,
to Honda
has gone, never mind, I'm going to be a Honda rider over here instead.
Oh, you'll pay me $3 million a year to ride a Honda? All right. I don't have to ride it every race. Go for it. Sorted.
So, I don't know. Maybe I'm just confused about the whole thing, but I'm not thrilled. I'm glad to see that both Jack Miller and Miguel get to stay in that sense, because seeing anyone leave the sport is not nice, whether it be on their own terms or not. But yeah,
it should be about the fastest and best riders, not about your passport or about these kind of things. But moving on to, unless there's anything else you want to say.
No, I was going to say something, but it would be a bit mean, so I'm actually not going to say.
Okay.
I'll set it off recording. Yeah, we'll set up, get the subscriber or Patreon thing going. And I need money in my pocket to say that.
I've got loads of bloopers already ready for that, by the way.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
You can add Lauren's hot takes to it.
Record my hot take at the end and add that in.
Sound. But yeah, moving on to probably the biggest news, I would say, of the weekend. Right after the main, actually no, it was right after the World Superbike race ended. Repsol dropped a press release. We knew it was coming for a while. I think I've said in the podcast many times that it was coming. And then they signed a 2-year extension, and I was like, okay, it was meant to end this year, but it hasn't. But a 30-year relationship between the start of 1995 and the end of 2024 is the Repsol Honda deal, the iconic livery. Like I think you said the other week, Lauren, about the fact that you see Repsol Honda replicas everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but quite a lot of places. And I'm just looking around my room. I can see one Repsol coloured bike. I can see another one. Repsol's literally everywhere. I've got T-shirts with Repsol written on it. Spanning 30 years, this deal has gone on, and it really does show that Honda struggles run deep, and Repsol as a brand, who are linked now to Formula One, are no longer wanting to foot the bill of Honda's disaster, which is sad.
Well, there's a quote. That is a quote, isn't it? Oh my goodness.
Expect to see that on our Instagram later this week.
Mic drop.
Yeah. It can't argue with it. It's amazing what a couple of years of consistently really poor results will do. Like you said earlier in the pod, it's a business. These companies are putting up big money to have their names
20
on these
million
bikes.
Probably.
And what are they getting in return? Like, the only time these bikes
0
are showing
points.
up on screen is when they're in the gravel. So
yeah, which makes your company look rubbish, because you don't want to be associated with gravel trap.
Exactly. The talisman that is Marc Marquez is gone. Just, it's a perfect storm of things that a business, a sponsor, do not like, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you say that they're looking at F1, because I've seen a few jokes obviously saying that we'll see a Repsol Ducati next year.
It's not happening because they've got a long-term partnership with Shell, unfortunately. End anybody saying that. Same with KTM and MotorX. KTM, I believe, own MotorX, so we won't see that. Yamaha have Yamalube and things like that. So, and it's, also, I'm not really sure, to be honest, but I believe Valvoline are tipped to be the new Honda sponsor. But it's interesting because Repsol have spent a lot of money and a lot of time creating a biofuel for MotoGP. And either they will just, instead of supplying Repsol, Honda, we can call it now, not Repsol. That's horrible. Instead of just supplying Honda with a biofuel, they might be able to supply more teams with the same fuel, maybe make more money that way, for one. And two, F1 are looking in the next few years to be on 100% renewable fuels. If Repsol have made that fuel and can whack it in a Red Bull car, they'll have a massive return on their investment, much bigger than they'll see in MotoGP.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. Even if it is just within MotoGP, changing up to maybe supplying other people and getting maybe a small, not being the title sponsor of a bike, and maybe just doing a little sponsor on a couple teams, just having a little Repsol logo there, but supplying the fuel, or becoming, like the sole supplier or something like that. Yeah, you're so right, to be attached to something a lot more for good, a lot more rewarding. You're going to get a lot more out of that, and your press is going to be a lot more you look better, rather than, like you said, being in the gravel and crashing and being associated with not being a very good bike, etc., etc.
Yeah,
I've just reworded your point, but
it's just it all comes down to stakeholders and money. That's it. That's all it is.
I get it. If they're sick and tired of being at the back every week, why would you want to be associated with that when you could branch out into something slightly newer and reap the rewards?
Yeah. I'm going to try and find something quickly, because I want to see, since 2021, how many sponsors Honda have lost. They've lost Red Bull, obviously.
I feel like
kick a team while they're down.
Yeah.
I'm just intrigued.
Are you going to be able to find this information easily, or shall I go put the kettle on?
I think once this webpage loads, I should have it. I should have it once this webpage on the screen loads. It's just loading.
The anticipation.
And your Wi-Fi cuts out. And
yeah, here we go. Right, I've got it. There we go. That easy. So, sponsors of Repsol Honda right now. Obviously, Repsol. You've got your One Heart, which is just Honda Vietnam, Akrapovic, Castore, Estrella Galicia. Quite a few other sponsors in there. But then the big ones, when you switch over to 2019, Red Bull are out, of course. Repsol will be out, of course, as well.
Honda's out.
Honda's out. What? Pull and Bear are out because they switched to Castore. I've spotted Oakley here that's not on the 2024 website. Let's have a look. We're just still
A lot of that is Marc Marquez, though.
Yeah,
Marc
I think
Marquez
so.
and
Yeah,
Pull and Bear was a
that's-
big thing.
I'll count the sponsors. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 35 sponsors. And then you've got 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37 in 2019. And I'm thinking about it. Alpine Stars, Pull and Bear, and Repsol and Red Bull are all out. They're the 4 main sponsors. Only one of them has been replaced by Castore because they lost Alpine Stars and Pull and Bear.
The Marc Marquez effect.
Potentially, but in addition to that, it's back of the grid effect.
Yeah, that and the lack of results, because, I mean, Marc Marquez and Pull and Bear, is that not still a thing? No?
No, they stopped when Honda signed Castore.
Oh, right,
Sadly,
okay.
because I have some really good stuff together.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that was maybe a move-related one. Oakley is...
Marquez is sponsored by Oakley still.
Yeah.
Alex isn't,
so
but Marquez.
Yeah, that's a movement sort of one. Yeah, that is interesting. I think that is mostly Marc Marquez leaving.
It's Marquez
and then
effect,
being at the back of the grid.
But then I think even, you look at 2021 potentially. I'm not going to do it because that took ages. But, you potentially can go back to 2021 and see the sponsors. And again, it might be quite a similar story where they've lost quite a few.
Yeah. So it's obviously correlation does not equal causation, but
no,
they had all these sponsors in 2019 when Marquez was, super dominant and won the championship comfortably. 2020 has this accident. Obviously, there was like COVID and everything, and that did put businesses under a lot of pressure. And I'm sure maybe some pulled out of sponsorships just purely for financial reasons due to the pandemic. But Marquez is no longer there, putting the bike at the front of the grid, and then comes back, and obviously the direction that the bike went in from then on made it tricky for him to put at the front of the grid and hard to ride, and there weren't any other riders that could do it. So it is like we were saying, it's just this kind of perfect storm of things just going wrong that sponsors do not like to see, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think you could put it down mostly to results, though. Like, I do think if you take Marc Marquez out of the equation, this probably would still be happening. Like, even just look at the national championships, it all goes on sponsors, and the bikes that are at the front don't need to worry about sponsors, but the bikes at the back of the grid, where some guys are paying their way to be there, they're the ones that struggle to get sponsors. I think that's pretty much just the same thing as happened here.
Do you want to know the difference, though? There's an interesting difference as well between them and Yamaha, because Yamaha seem to have kept most of their sponsors. Honda haven't, because Mir and Marini, personally, aren't that marketable. They don't have a big following on social media. They've not got people going, oh my god, it's, these riders are amazing. Mir's a champion and probably has one of the lowest followings on social media out of the entire grid, which is mental. Marini, is Marquez's Rossi's half brother.
You were about to start some family drama there.
Marini is Rossi's half brother, but he doesn't want to be known as Rossi's half brother his whole career. He wants to be known as Luca Marini. That himself isn't marketable. Marquez was incredibly marketable. Fabio Quartararo is incredibly marketable as well.
Do you want to know the following difference between Fabio and Mir?
Go for it. It's like
Mir
2 million.
has 622,000 followers on Instagram. Fabio Quartararo has 2.4 million.
So 1.8 million. That is why
Mir doesn't even have 1 million followers.
Which is mental.
They're subsequent champions.
Yeah. And that's it. So Yamaha can retain their sponsorship because they can use more. Fabio. Does he? That's mental. But that's the thing, because Yamaha can retain sponsors because, one, they're looking like they're making an actual effort to get to the front, and two, Fabio is incredibly marketable, which allows brands to want to be sponsoring Yamaha because they know Fabio's got tons of fans and will sell a lot of bikes with their logos on the side of it, you know? Whereas Marini, you slap a number 10 on a Repsol Honda bike, who's buying that?
Well, Alex Rins, for example, still under 1 million, but has 903,000. So
pretty close.
Yeah.
He's nearly at double of Mir and Marini put together.
Yeah. It's nuts. Yeah, so that was just a little tidbit.
No, you're right, actually. That's interesting to go and look that up. Yeah.
They're just not as marketable, which is why Red Bull pulled out, because they've got no links to Marini and Mir. They're both Monster Energy athletes for most of their career.
Yeah.
You know, Marquez was with...
nothing in it for them.
Yeah, Marquez was with Repsol for 18 years of his career. They're going to be a loyal sponsor whilst Marquez is on the bike. They signed a contract to the end of Marquez's 4-year deal at the end of the day as well. And then Marquez leaves, and suddenly Marquez leaves. Mir is in there. Spanish, sure, but again, hasn't really been associated with Repsol that long. And Marini, who, well, Repsol's nothing really to him at the end of the day. There's a photo of him when he was younger wearing a Repsol suit, sure, but that's literally it. And so they're not going to want to be, because they don't have that story with these riders, whereas they had the story with Marc going from the 2007 KTM to now.
Yeah.
You know, well, to 2023 anyway, when he left. And so they had that connection, but they don't have it anymore. And so it's not surprised to see Repsol pull out of MotoGP because, well, why would they stay?
Yeah, there's nothing in it for them, really, now. And if it facilitates them selling their fuel to more teams and making more money, it's a win-win almost.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
But yeah, moving on, before we go to Moto2 and Moto3, interesting article that got posted today by motorsport.com, probably one of the best sources. They have said, after the testing the other day, that Yamaha is developing a V4 MotoGP engine. That it's in an advanced state, they've said. Yamaha have publicly acknowledged that it's working on a change to its engine concept, which is currently in inline 4. And the only references have been very vague answers by Fabio and Rins, when Fabio said Yamaha must take into account all the engine concepts without saying anything else. But they've said that a company source confirmed to them at Misano the project was not only on track, but moving forward at a quick pace. And that was after Yamaha hired Luca Mamarini, who is a racing engineer who worked in F1 with Ferrari and Toyota. So, Yamaha are meaning business. We went into why at the start of this year Fabio stayed at Yamaha. Why did you stay? Surely Yamaha are cooking something. You can't be staying for that much money to be at the back of the grid, and then a few months later Yamaha have a second team with 2 incredibly experienced riders on the bike, and they're looking at a V4, and they've got Cal Crutchlow still on the test team. Dovy's in the wings if he wants to be, and they might have another test rider as well. And now suddenly Fabio's reasons for staying at Yamaha are coming, apart from the 12 million quid to, keep his mouth shut.
That's a good few reasons to stay.
I mean, we did say it at the time. We were like, they have to be doing something. Like,
exactly.
At that age that Fabio is, where you're like in the height of your career, you're not taking 12 million to just sit and do nothing. Like, he wants to do more than what he has done already. Like, he's won the world championship, but I think he would like to win it a couple more times and staying loyal
fight,
and
just win races.
Yeah, exactly. Be back to where he was in 2019, and maybe not 2020, but 2021, even 2022. He wants to be back at the front and being able to win races. And when you can win races, you can win championships. And then that 12 million all of a sudden becomes pennies to you when you start earning all those bonuses too. So
yeah, and 12 million suddenly is a very nice paycheck to be riding one of the best bikes on the grid.
Absolutely.
all of a sudden,
Doing what you
that's
want to do anyway.
petty change,
Yeah.
So yeah,
The stupid mental bonuses you get from championship wins. That's it. And so suddenly it kind of makes sense. And yeah, it's interesting if Yamaha do finally go with the grain instead of against it and go, right, fine, we'll do it. We'll get a V4, because that could be just what they need to get to the front. We know it's not a bad bike. They've got some incredibly good riders in that team, and it'll be interesting for Rins, who's only really ever ridden an inline 4 in MotoGP, and Fabio, to then adapt to a V4. But if that bike can fix the grip issues they've got, make sure that the bike actually is fast in a straight line, has acceleration that they're missing.
Yeah, it has the punch.
Yeah, suddenly Yamaha could be a force again.
I mean, if it could shadow a Ducati, which is the most what we say is the most user-friendly bike on the grid, if it can shadow that, then they're on to a winner.
Well, it used to be.
Aprilia, KTM, etc. They have their issues and they can't seem to make it work consistently. If Yamaha can, one, get a little bit of consistency, and two, make it that user-friendly, shadow the Ducati, basically, they're on to a winner. And yeah, they'll go places because they've got two very good riders on their bikes too, which will help massively, and are committed to stay through this project too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing to say.
Exciting times.
Moto2 and Moto3. So Moto2, of course, Arbolino, second podium in a row.
Yep.
Back. They said that they're going to more of a Dunlop style kind of setup with the bike, and it seems to be working for him now.
Interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think how did the podium end again? It was
Ogura, Canet, Arbolino.
Yeah.
Like
17th, second place for Canet. May I just add in there?
Is this like 2023, 2022? What's happening? It's such a almost
Bottas
classic podium.
Traditions.
Yeah. It's true. And yes,
traditions. Exactly. Yeah. Classic.
Yeah, if this was 2022, I'd go, yeah, that seems about right.
Yeah. Obvious.
Yeah. It's interesting with the championship standings now. 8 races to go. Joe Roberts once again outside of the points.
Yikes.
Dixon, decent race to be honest.
Not
incredible,
solid.
P5 for Jake Dixon. Jake Dixon is now on 130 points, is 3 behind Roberts and Lopez now.
What I was trying to say, Roberts has a contract for next year, which was confirmed.
He does. Yes, correct. So that's good, at least for Joe. But
yeah, that's the only good thing.
Yeah, if Jake wins next time out in Misano, he will leapfrog the pair of them and be sat in third in the championship.
Easy.
He's doing well. I mean, this weekend clearly wasn't going well for him, and to salvage a 5th,
incredible.
Yeah, where did he start?
That's proper.
14th, yeah.
14th, and he said at the end, it felt like a win, and he was really positive. And he said, even though it started very badly, the fact that we were able to salvage this, and then the fact that we're going to be back here in a couple of weeks' time, helps that we now know where we were going wrong at the start of this weekend, and he's already now on the front foot rather than being on the back foot, which will help a lot of people as well, not just Jake. But in terms of championships, this is massive. I would expect to see him more up towards the podium next time round in Misano, now knowing that he has that experience under his belt and he knows where the issues were.
100%.
Agreed.
And then the big kicker is Ayagura taking the championship lead by 9 points from Sergio Garcia, who's had 2 pretty tough weekends. He was injured, I believe, the other week. That's why he struggled at Aragon. Again, potentially still riding injured. Very upset after the race, as we saw. And I don't really know what's going on, to be honest. Maybe he's injured. The whole loss of a MotoGP contract could be getting in his head as well. But,
he's not the only one, which is what's making me question it even
Roberts
more.
As well,
Joe Roberts, Alonso Lopez, Fermin Aldeguer, who thankfully for once actually settled for some decent points and just didn't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm confused not only by Sergio Garcia but by the rest of them. And for Jake to be flying up the order as fast as he is, considering he didn't score points in the first 5 rounds of the season, like, it's pretty mad that now other people are having these massive dips in performance. And even look at Tony Arbolino, for example, now 2 podiums in a row, was on pole position, his first ever pole in Moto2, which was a fun stat I never knew about until this
I didn't
weekend,
expect
obviously.
that at all.
So I was like, surely he's had loads of poles. Apparently not, but now all of a sudden, there you go. So this needs to be studied more. The dip in performance and now the change sort of the fact that, say, Dixon and Arbolino are sort of back up at the front where they sort of were last season is quite interesting. I need to know why that is happening, but at the minute I can't put my finger on any sort of reasoning at all.
Yeah, it's been a wildly inconsistent season for like everyone, really.
Everyone,
which is interesting. Like, it's good from a spectator point of view, but like, why? What's happening? What's going on?
Yeah, I think the only people who've been consistent are Aaron Canet and Manuel Gonzalez, finishing 2nd and 5th.
Yeah.
Apart from that,
that is pretty.
Apart from that, it's just
that needs studied.
Yeah, that's chaos. But yeah, some solid rides. Morera 8th place as well. Aegis 11th.
Nice, yep.
Chantra was nowhere to be seen, which was quite concerning.
He was 14th, and I'm sat here. I saw him finish 14th, and I was like, "Is this really MotoGP caliber?" Like, 14th.
We say this every time.
Just think about the ones who came before him. Don't read about it.
Good point.
Yeah, good point indeed. Yeah, shame to see Lopez crash out pretty much instantly as well.
Yeah,
felt he had
the end of the first lap.
Yeah, I felt he had something in the bag, but yeah, then that Oradre incident as well. Did you see that?
The what incident?
Unai Oradre.
Pit lane.
When a security guard crossed pit lane as he was riding out, he dodged to avoid them, hit them, and the bike ended up in the Aprilia garage where Aleix was sat, and hit a mechanic as well.
I don't know if he was there at the time.
He wasn't there, but it was by his seat.
Yeah.
I saw the photo of the bike in the pit, but I never followed up why.
Yeah, apparently some of the guys had literally just left to go get a coffee. Thankfully, Alicia wasn't there either, but there wasn't very many people in the garage, thankfully. But yeah, a security guard who is a local, not
a marshal or something.
Not a marshal. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. A local security guard stepped out and that happened. So
oh dear.
Very, very lucky that no one was hurt. I mean, I think possibly the security guard went to hospital, or maybe one of the Aprilia guys.
They both were in the medical centre,
Yeah, they were totally fine, so nothing crazy, but that could have ended so badly.
Yeah, really bad. But yeah, and then moving to Moto3 before we go into the predictions. Angel Piqueras singing his praises before the year as the Junior GP and Red Bull Rookies champion. Maybe not performed as well as we'd hoped him to do this year, given the prestige of last year. Same with Raider, really, kind of maybe taking a bit more time to get into it.
Yeah.
He is meant to be going to the MSI squad next year after his contract was bought out finally. I think I mentioned that on the pod last time out. But yeah, double on that penalty, and suddenly in the last 2 laps, out of nowhere, goes from 7th to 1st.
It was impressive.
What are your thoughts, though, on the fact that he served a double long lap penalty and could still win the race?
What?
Well,
what are you implying by that?
Yeah, go on.
Well,
why are you asking that question?
My thoughts are, if you've punted someone off in a practice and you've got a double long lap penalty, I just don't like the fact that you're able to fight for a win again. I don't know.
Well, the same with Pedro Acosta winning from pit lane. At the end of the day,
I know. And at the time, you're sort of blinded, oh my god, that's amazing how you managed to do that. But yeah,
well,
I don't know.
I'll counter your point. I'm going to counter your point.
Yeah.
My point. You're saying was he punished? My point is, most riders, and maybe even Piqueras on a different day, would have taken that double long lap penalty and finished 12th, finished 5th. Look at Luca Lunetta, didn't really make. He was starting on the front row and finished 9th. And the only reason he won was because of the talent and because he conserved his bike the right way and still was able to win the race through talent. And I do get the point about the fact that, you know, if you're penalised, you should be penalised. You shouldn't be able to win a race from having done a double on that penalty. But I think every so often, something like this will happen where a rider is able to overcome a massive, you know, the amount of times you've seen riders crash and then still finish in the points. And you're like, how the hell have they done that?
I think
because of talent.
Yeah, when you look at the rider who he hit, and I don't want people thinking just because it was Scott Ogden that this is the way that I'm thinking, but like his weekend was ruined. He had to go into qualifying after having then quite a big crash. Didn't qualify where he should have or where he was throughout the start of the weekend, and then only managed to scrape 15th. But he had to deal with flying through the gravel when he wasn't going to do that otherwise. Well, we don't know that he wasn't going to do that otherwise, but yeah, I find that a bit sour that the other rider still lost out even though the rider was penalised. But I don't want to take away from Piqueras because that's not what I'm trying to say, because I think what he did was absolutely incredible. And you're right, the talent, like the cream rises to the top, and what you said the other day on like an Instagram post or something like that. But like, you're so right. He's been knocking on the door for so long now that it was only a matter of time before he won a race in Moto3. But just the circumstances is a bit iffy in my opinion. And yeah, this is why they continue to reoffend later down the line. And it's why you get people who ride slow on the racing line, and how you get people who, like, you know, we always talk about David Munoz, etc., who will continue to do things and not get harsh penalties. So I think maybe I'm just thinking of maybe later down the line he thinks that he can get away with something similar again because he was able to do it before and not get a harsh penalty.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like two separate instances.
Yeah.
Like what he did was incredible and he fully deserved to win, but safety point of view, concerning of like riders thinking that they can get away with doing things like that.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't think he's going to think that he can get away with it. I think potentially he might think that he got potentially fortunate because of the fact that he was able to recover it.
Yeah, they did try and appeal it, but they got turned down, obviously.
It's not like he's not going to want a double on that penalty, is he, at the end of the day? So anything he can do to avoid that happening, he will. And if he gets one, he's just going to have to bite his gum shield down a bit harder and try and win a race like he did today.
Yeah.
But it might not always kind of work out that way, maybe. But yeah,
indeed.
Going on to David Alonso, who didn't win again. I'm quite surprised. What's going on there?
What's happening? That's it.
Falling off a cliff. He's cooked it.
Yep.
My predictions hate him. Like, come on.
No. He's down to 70-point championship lead. Like, come on, man. What are you doing?
Oh, should have it wrapped up by now. What's going on?
I know he should win it next weekend, surely.
Yeah. But yeah, like, still pretty good race for him. He did lose a place on the last lap through hitting the green. But
he was like punted off, though, wasn't he?
No.
Near enough?
No.
Was it not?
Not when he touched the green, no.
But he was not happy with Piqueras' moves, because Piqueras did make some questionable overtakes during that race.
Did too. I was like, what have these guys had for breakfast? That last lap could have ended in tears.
That was wild.
Scrappy.
Yeah.
But
great race.
Cameron's boy for Sato, 4th place.
Let's go for Sato. Moto2 bound, hopefully.
No. He's going to Intact.
Oh.
Moto3. It's a Saki that will replace Chantra, so I'm told.
Well, I mean, I'm not wrong.
Do you not watch everything Motor Racing Stories?
Yeah. No.
I feel like I've seen this already.
It'll be a Moto2 eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
He's clearly like talented. I told you this would happen. Did I not tell you this would happen?
I love his helmet design. That's all that I care about.
Yeah, it's good. It is good.
It's like the Rossi son, isn't it?
Oh, it's incredible.
Awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, I do love it. He's great. Yeah, but Moto3, decent race, bit chaotic.
Great race.
Yeah, quite sad to see the first lap chaos as well. Lots of crashes. Kind of hoped that Rueda would have a chance to back it up again.
Oh yeah, Munoz got a penalty for that.
Yeah, he did say sorry for it. I don't actually know really what happened, but if Munoz is involved, it's not really
And if
quite
he's
hard to
saying
guess.
sorry, then surely he knows he's done wrong.
Must have been bad. Yeah.
Munoz specialty, Yeah, but yeah, heading into the predictions finally. So, interesting one this time round.
No.
No, because I know I haven't scored any points.
Leaving Misano, I led with 624 points. Lauren in second with 413.
I don't
and
think
Cameron
I'll still be in second.
just 6 points back with 407.
Right.
So, in Moto 3, we all had Alonso on pole, which was correct.
Oh!
And
there you go.
That was it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Thanks,
We
Danny
all had
Holgado.
Alonso to win. Yeah, we all had Alonso to win. Me and Cameron had Rueda in second. I had Via third. Cameron had Kelso third. Lauren had Via second. Colgado third. So 0 points after that.
Heck. Okay.
So we've all gained 10 points. There's still 6 points back, and Lauren's leading Cameron. But in Moto 2, no one scored points, barring Cameron getting Arbolino on pole.
His first ever pole. Let's go.
So Cameron now goes to 427 points with Lauren's 423.
He was so on for the win too. To like halfway through the race. Oh.
I had Dixon, Lopez, Vietti, and then Dixon on pole. Cameron had Arbolino, Dixon, Vietti. Lauren had Arbolino, Dixon, Lopez, and then Vietti pole.
Honestly.
Yeah, and then in MotoGP, Cameron again got pole position correct with Bagnaia.
3 for 3,
Wait,
baby.
do I get some kind of special points for this?
You
for getting all 3 poles?
Come
on. What are the chances?
I know. Crazy.
That'll never happen again.
Yeah, me and Lauren had Martin. Then in MotoGP, in the sprint race, I had Bagnaia to win. And Cameron and Lauren, you both had Martin. In third place,
well, then surely
me. What?
Wait, we get the points.
We get points?
Yeah, you get 12 points for that.
All right.
Yes, I don't know why I sighed. I thought it was back.
Then in third place in the main race, me and Cameron had Martin, Lauren had Bagnaia, so that was wrong. Second place, me and Cameron had Marquez, Lauren had Bastianini. And then me and Cameron had Bagnaia to win, Lauren had Martin. So once again, 0 points from a main race. All 3 categories, 0 points scored. So leaving Misano 1 and jumping to Misano 2, I lead with 634. With 449 points is Cameron, and 440 is Lauren. So it's only
I'm only 9 points behind. All right, okay. That's okay. Yeah. I thought it was more. I can live with that.
No, but the more important thing is that, well, not more important, but I had a 200-point plus lead, and I'm under a 200-point lead.
Are you sweating? Are you
need to talk to David Alonso. Like, calm down.
I'm going to peckle Bagnaia at you.
Yeah. Oh my god.
What?
No, I gave up on that a long time ago. But it just goes to show, anytime you put faith in someone,
they just let you down.
They do.
I found that out a long time ago, don't worry.
So anyway.
Anywho.
Is that everything we need to talk about?
Yes. So
we need a GoFundMe. Oh my goodness.
I do.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Send me to more races, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's everything we've got to talk about.
Yeah, we've been at this for a while now. I think people are, if they're still tuned in, then thank you very much.
Yeah,
but,
who has this sort of time on their hands?
Mental.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Crazy people. But yeah, before I do end this podcast, just wanted to pay tribute and respect to Ryota Haga, of course, Nitro Nori's son, who was tragically killed in an accident in the Japanese Superstock 600 race at the weekend just gone. Obviously, thoughts and feelings are with the family and his friends, because that's absolutely awful. I follow Akito Haga on social media. His brother, he's been posting some nice things on there about his brother and stuff. But yeah, really difficult situation. So obviously, just sending the family some love, really. But
yeah.
I
think that's us. That's everything I got time for.
Yep. Sorry to end that on a sad note, but
oh well, it's had to be said.
Yes.
And nicely put. But
thank you.
If you're watching on YouTube, bell icon, subscribe, like, share, comments, predictions, all that stuff. It's all good fun.
Put your predictions in the comments.
Yes, definitely do. And
then
socials
on Spotify. Follow us on Spotify if you don't. And then Lauren with the socials.
Instagram, On the Gas Pod. We just put up an interview with Scott Ogden after Silverstone. We spoke to him after the race, and we still have an interview with Zonta van den Gerberg to go up too. So that'll be up on our page sometime very, very soon. And you can go back and look at our interviews with Manu Gonzalez, Joel Kelso, and Eddie O'Shea, who will be joining the paddock very, very soon, which I'm excited about. Keep forgetting that that's happening. So yeah, all that's over on our socials as well. So yeah, go check it out.
And I can also thankfully now say it's not Zonta van den Gorberg, it's Zonta van den Horberg.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
You'll just have to see it. I was there. I witnessed it. Zonta was just being nice.
He never taught me how to say his name, so I wasn't there. So you can let me live on that one. Okay. Sorry, Zonta.
Nice. Well, thank you for listening. We're back next week. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.